When mentioning organized crime, many people immediately think of the mafia, drug cartels, or terrorist organizations, but there are gangs that do more than just smuggling or killing. They have ideals, strategies, and even political ambitions. The IRA and Los Zetas are two such forces. One fights for independence. The other controls territory through brutality. One operates in the shadows, while the other openly challenges the government. But which is truly more dangerous? A militarily disciplined organization, or a cartel that can function like a nation? And if one day, such organizations evolve into uncontrollable forces, will we still have the power to stop them? Let's delve into the underworld filled with schemes and violence, where crime is no longer just crime, but could be the rulers in the shadows. The underworld of criminal gangs does not always operate in a simple, looting manner. Some organizations are structured like military forces, with ranks, strategies, and strict command systems. Meanwhile, other gangs function loosely, like a network where each group can operate independently. These two styles can determine their survival. One has better control but is vulnerable if its central command is destroyed. The other is more flexible but risks falling into chaos. Let's weigh two organizations that have shaken the past century: the IRA, Irish Republican Army, and Los Zetas, the most brutal cartel in Mexico. One is an armed political organization operating as a paramilitary force, while the other is a notorious cartel led by former elite soldiers. Their organizational structure not only reflects their goals but also influences how they expand, develop, and most importantly, how they survive government crackdowns. The IRA is not a traditional criminal group. It is a separatist movement with a history spanning hundreds of years. With a clear political goal: securing independence for Northern Ireland from the United Kingdom. To achieve this, they operate like a secret army. The IRA has a high-level command structure, with independent branches that still follow a common strategy. Their recruitment process is strict, carefully filtering members to ensure absolute loyalty. This structure has helped them maintain strength for decades without being completely eliminated by the British government. Each unit operates almost autonomously, minimizing the risk of exposure if a member is captured. This also means that even if a leader is eliminated, the IRA can continue to function without being paralyzed. However, the downside of this model is its lack of flexibility. Operating like a military force, the IRA cannot expand as rapidly as mafia gangs or drug cartels. They cannot recruit en masse due to the need for secrecy. This tight cohesion also makes them more vulnerable if infiltrated by spies or betrayers. But here's something to think about. Why has an organization like the IRA survived for decades without being completely wiped out by the British government? Is it because they are truly strong? Or because they have a legitimate political cause, ensuring they always have supporters? And if an organization can endure for so long without massive financial profits, are they really a criminal gang? Or are they a legitimate fighting force? If the IRA is a disciplined paramilitary force, Los Zetas is an organization that originated from the military itself. Founded by former Mexican soldiers, Los Zetas differ from other cartels. They are not just a drug trafficking network but a true paramilitary force. Traditional cartels often operate within a family-based model, where loyalty is maintained through blood ties. But Los Zetas function like a violent corporation, where power is built on absolute strength. While serving in the Mexican military, the founders of Los Zetas were trained in combat tactics, intelligence, and assassination. Upon leaving the military, they not only carried their skills but also their strategic mindset. The organizational model of Los Zetas is flexible and decentralized. Each small group can operate independently, manage its own finances, and make its own decisions. This makes them difficult to eradicate entirely, as even if a leader is killed, other branches can continue operating. But here's a major issue. Is this model truly effective in the long run? An organization without tight central control can easily fall into chaos. And reality has proven this, after many of Los Zetas' top leaders were eliminated. The cartel fragmented into multiple smaller factions fighting for power. While the IRA has maintained unity for decades, Los Zetas quickly descended into disarray and lost control. So, which model is stronger? A disciplined organization with clear political ideology but limited expansion? Or a brutal cartel that can grow rapidly but is also prone to collapse? Another intriguing question. What would happen if an organization like the IRA adopted Los Zetas' model? If they abandoned military discipline and operated like a decentralized criminal network? Could they become stronger and more widespread? Or would that cause them to lose their very essence? Conversely, if Los Zetas had a centralized command structure like the IRA, could they transform into an underground state, functioning as a legitimate government? These questions are not easy to answer, but they highlight an important point. Crime is not just crime. When an organization becomes powerful enough, it can blur the lines between a gang and a government. And if one day, these organizations become smart enough to learn from each other, will we still have the ability to control them? This is a problem that not just governments, but the entire world needs to consider. And if you think the danger lies only in organizational structure, stay tuned, because in the next section, we will dive into an even more terrifying factor: the balance between secrecy and public visibility. Does invisibility make an organization stronger? Or is the display of power the ultimate weapon? There are criminal organizations that choose to operate in the shadows, hiding behind walls of silence, leaving no trace. But there are also gangs that do not bother concealing their existence and instead flaunt their power in an openly defiant manner. So which approach is more effective? Maintaining secrecy for long-term survival or going public to instill fear? The IRA chooses to remain elusive, like a cold wind creeping through the night. They do not reveal their identities, do not boast about their strength, and do not seek media attention. The name IRA is only mentioned after sudden bombings and assassinations where the perpetrators vanish without a trace. This secrecy frustrated the British government for decades because no one knew exactly where they operated, who was in charge, or when they would strike next. They did not need to declare their power. Their invisibility alone was enough to spread unease. But can an organization relying solely on secrecy truly endure? When no one knows exactly who is behind it, maintaining public support becomes more challenging. They cannot apply direct pressure on the government like openly operating groups. For this reason, the IRA was eventually forced to change, engaging more in politics to sustain its influence. In contrast, Los Zetas took an entirely different path. They did not hide, they wanted the whole world to fear them. Execution videos, bodies hanging from overpasses, threatening messages, all were part of their psychological warfare strategy. By making violence public, they sent a clear message: no one could challenge their authority without consequences. This approach intimidated even other cartels. However, such openness is a double-edged sword. When an organization exposes itself too much, it also becomes an easier target for the authorities. One by one, Los Zetas leaders were eliminated, their bases dismantled, and their network weakened. What they failed to account for was that while public displays of power helped them quickly seize control, they also placed them directly in the crosshairs of the military and special forces. So which approach is truly more effective? A secretive organization may survive longer but struggles to assert its authority. A public organization can spread fear instantly but is also rapidly hunted down. What would happen if a group like the IRA adopted Los Zetas' methods, choosing to display power instead of staying hidden? Or if Los Zetas realized that secrecy could prolong their existence? An organization that masters both strategies, staying just hidden enough to avoid destruction while remaining visible enough to control its territory, could become an unstoppable force. But is there an organization intelligent enough to achieve that? How powerful can a criminal organization be without weapons? Weapons are not just tools of killing, they dictate how an organization operates. A group that fights in the shadows, like the IRA, does not need massive stockpiles, but they require weapons sophisticated enough to strike quickly and disappear without a trace. In contrast, a cartel like Los Zetas needs heavy firepower to assert dominance and control territory. This fundamental difference has led these two organizations down completely opposite paths. The IRA chose guerrilla warfare. They relied on improvised explosive devices, IEDs, to strike from a distance, destroying government buildings, military vehicles, or even sending letter bombs to eliminate targets. These weapons were not only effective but also cheap and easy to manufacture. When it came to firearms, they used compact and concealable weapons like the Alaska 47, AR-15, or Uzi submachine guns, which could be quickly disassembled when needed. Their approach was not about holding fixed territory but creating chaos, striking and vanishing before being detected. However, this strategy had its limits. As guerrilla warfare dragged on, sustaining a steady supply of weapons became a major challenge. They lacked the smuggling routes of the cartels and could not operate like a conventional army. Los Zetas, on the other hand, operated in a completely different way. They possessed heavy machine guns like the M60, Barrett .50 caliber sniper rifles, RPG-7 anti-tank weapons, armored vehicles, grenade launchers, and even explosive-laden drones. They did not need to strike and retreat like the IRA because they controlled entire regions. They could set up roadblocks on highways, stop police convoys, or even lay siege to and wipe out entire government headquarters if necessary. But this raw power came with a critical weakness. It made them highly visible targets. The more heavily armed an organization is, the easier it becomes for conventional military forces to track and eliminate them. Unlike the IRA, which could blend into civilian society, Los Zetas had to fight to maintain their dominance. And once they showed weakness, rival factions immediately moved in to seize their territory. So which approach is superior? A covert organization with minimal but flexible weaponry? Or a cartel with vast arsenals but constantly at risk of annihilation? What happens if a group masters both guerrilla tactics and advanced weaponry? Are we approaching an era where criminals leverage AI, deepfakes, and biological weapons to expand their power? If an organization like the IRA had access to the technology of Los Zetas, could they become unstoppable? And if cartels learned how to disappear like the IRA, would governments still be capable of maintaining control? How long can a gang spread fear before becoming a true global security threat? An organization like the IRA may have frustrated the British government for decades. But ultimately, their influence remained confined to a specific region. They could create instability and heighten societal tensions, but they never altered the global order. In contrast, Los Zetas were never just a Mexican cartel. They were part of an international drug war. A trafficking network capable of manipulating the economies of multiple nations. This shifted the issue from being merely a conflict between a government and a criminal gang to a war that could impact millions of people worldwide. The IRA forced Britain into political crises, but they never collapsed the British economy. They could not shift the balance of power between nations or displace hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. Los Zetas, however, operated on a different scale. They did not just kill people or control the drug market, they drove hundreds of thousands of Mexicans to flee, creating pressure on the US border and triggering a chain reaction of migration crises, organized crime, and political instability on an international level. If the Mexican government fails to control Los Zetas, could there come a day when a cartel replaces the government entirely? What happens if a criminal organization becomes powerful enough to rule a country, impose its own laws, and function as an actual government? The terrifying reality is that organizations like these can never be fully eradicated. If one cartel is destroyed, another will take its place. If a politically motivated organization like the IRA dissolves, a new movement can emerge. And what if, one day, crime and politics no longer have a clear boundary? A world where criminal organizations no longer operate in the shadows but openly control territories, manipulate governments, and exist as a parallel force to the state? Perhaps this is no longer a hypothetical scenario, but a future that is approaching faster than we ever imagined. Crime can be hunted down, but ideology and power are not so easily erased. The IRA may weaken, but the separatist mindset remains. Los Zetas may lose territory, but their model will continue to replicate in the future. One day, if these organizations become strong enough to replace governments, what kind of world will we face? A world where laws hold no meaning, where only guns and power dictate control. If you have any thoughts on this topic, leave a comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss our next deep dive.